Welcome back and thanks for staying with us right here on PM News. We now cross live to the World Economic Forum in Cape Town, where my colleague Francis Hurd is standing by with Dr. Zweli Mkhise to discuss investment in South Africa. Good afternoon to you, Francis.
Good afternoon to you, Colin. You can see it's raining here in Cape Town, so putting a little bit of a damper on things, but still an unprecedented turnout at this World Economic Forum, the meetings on Africa that have been going close to 25 years. So this meeting looking back on where we've come from and forward to where we're going. Not too much happening today in terms of open meetings, but a lot happening behind closed doors. Everybody registering and getting ready for the open sessions tomorrow. Like you said, I'm joined by the ANC Treasurer General Zweli Mkhise. Great to have you with us, Zweli. So behind closed doors, is that where the things are really taking place, or should we wait for those public announcements and those more public meetings? Where's the action?
Well, the nature of the World Economic Forum is that you've got a lot of side meetings where groups of delegates meet and discuss issues, but its strength really lies in the fact that you have got the topmost of the global leaders in business, in government, and therefore a lot of bilateral meetings, a lot of discussions happen on the side. Its strength is networking on the one side, but also it's the discussion of very pertinent issues of the economy of the different parts of the world.
This conference is good for us, being held in South Africa. A lot of the ministers are reiterating that stance, that South Africa is open for business after the attacks on foreigners, and also an emphasis on we want to trade with Africa. But looking at our growth rates, we are behind the curve. We're behind the world. We're behind Africa. We're a weight on growth in Southern Africa. Is the ANC... obviously government important here, but is the ANC behind the scenes willing to look at economic policy? Because it sounds like all the right things are being said, but we're not seeing the deliverables.
Well, there's always a lag between what is on policy and what gets implemented, but I would say that the ANC is up to the task. We're ready to look at areas where we need to make amends, where we need to change things. But from where we stand in relation to the WEF, we believe is a very important platform to market South Africa, to market Africa as a continent, because the stance that our government has taken is that we can only market South Africa as part of the continent, because our fortunes are actually intertwined with those of the rest of the continent. And therefore, when we look at the continent, we look at the combined work that is being done in the continent, in particular the shift from the African Union of emphasizing issues of good governance, constitutional democracies, and ensuring that there is peaceful change from regime to regime, and then link that with the whole program of looking at the next Vision 2063 that looks at the building of the infrastructure in the whole continent, in which South Africa is a very strong proponent as a chair of that section, but also building the capacity to boost the trade between the African states, because that is really one legacy of colonialism that has made it difficult for African states to trade together. And with that, we believe that the whole continent is going to grow quite significantly. We have our role to play, but I think there are a number of things which are very common amongst us as the African states. One of those is what we call the issue of the youth dividend, the large number of young people that we need to train to ensure that they are educated, we give them skills, we get technology transfer. That is what will help to boost the whole continent, and we're all linked together. And I think this is an opportunity for Africa to showcase itself and talk about what we are doing. One of the significant meetings that will be taking place on Friday will be about the world, the global investor community, looking at concrete programs of infrastructure in the continent. And I think that this time we're going to be seeing concrete results.
Do you think that sometimes we've been very inward looking? We have our own issues, often a focus on transformation, but have we missed that that inclusion, seeing ourselves as part of Africa?
Well, I would say I think we need to improve the balance there. There are internal issues that South Africans must face and deal with like any other country, but I think it's important to keep an eye on the fact that we have a role to play in the building of this continent, and in that regard, I think that the role of the African Union and the roles that we play there, wherein we play a role in the peace and stability in various parts of the continent, but you must also be aware that South Africa is actually, if you were to exclude the investment that comes into South Africa from outside the continent, South Africa is the largest investor in the rest of the continent, and that indicates that there's a lot of progress that is taking place at that level. But at the same time, we have to focus on our internal issues, but we need to also be aware that South Africa still remains a very important destination for foreign direct investment.
You were speaking about the diplomacy, the importance of relationships. There's been a little controversy lately because you've been traveling throughout Africa. You went to the World Economic Forum meetings in Davos with Brand South Africa. Some people critical of the blurred lines. Are those diplomatic efforts in our country's interests rather than the ANC's?
No. We always separate. If I go out, if it's ANC work, it's very clearly ANC work. If it's Brand South Africa, then it's obviously Brand South Africa. And within the Brand South Africa space, you would be able to see the direct contributions that our role has made into the Brand South Africa. But at the same time, issues that relate to party, we don't deal with government or branding agencies. We deal with parties, we deal with political leadership. It's not impossible to actually do that, because literally all the government leaders all over, they know when they've got to play a role as government leaders as well as when they have to play a role as party leaders. All the government leaders are generally party leaders on the one side, and we keep the lines quite separate. But what also is important is that whether I'm Brand South Africa or I'm African National Congress, the primary role is that of promoting the role South Africa can play in the building of an integrated African economy. We always take it that South Africa, with its whatever level of development it has, it needs to be taken as an asset that will help the continent to grow, and therefore we believe that over the many years to come, there will always be this exchange, that we need to continue building the relationships at all different levels.
Zweli, we're running out of time, so I'm going to throw in one quick question. Well, you spoke about this youth bulge, the unemployment, this fear that these young people won't get the jobs in future. South Africa is already facing that unemployment problem. Is there any one country that you would pick out that we should learn from, a light in Africa, any country that inspires you?
I think different countries have got a lot of different advantages that they would offer. I would say most of the African countries, if you take Kenya, you take Nigeria, the culture of youth entrepreneurship is much more better developed there, and I think this is something that we can learn from. But at the same time, I think we need to be able to blend whatever the strength of South Africa in terms of its institutions, in terms of its the strength of its in intellectual development, the academic institutions. It's a very important issue, and so if we pull those together, they will be able to help us to build the continent right across, because the problems are generally the same, but we need to actually say we've got particular strengths that will help other parts of the continent, but at the same time we've got a lot to learn from the different parts of the continent as well.
Thank you very much. Zweli Mkhise, Treasurer General of the ANC, and we're coming to you live from the World Economic Forum meetings taking place in rainy Cape Town. It's back to studio.